This episode of the Better Two podcast is brought to you by Kitty Mystic and DM Needham, author of My Days with the Dark Muse, as well as Love is Worth Waiting For. Hi, gang. Donna here. Thanks for tuning into the Better Two podcast. Today's guest is Kalea. Kalea is a clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient medium, and so much more. Her and I talk about the fact that she's had more than 2 near-death experiences. And she talks to us about what she saw and what she experienced when she was lying there close to death. And in fact, one time she really did die, or at least it seemed that way. So listen in for a fascinating story. Hi, Kalea. How are you doing today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. I was introduced to Kalea, folks, by a friend, a mutual friend of ours, and she is a pretty amazing lady. But before we get into all of her amazing stories, I want to talk about something that happened to her that people are always curious about, and that was that you came close to dying twice. So how did that go? What happened?
It's been more than twice now, but I fell out of a truck the first time and just had a brief little episode in the ambulance. And I did all the research and thought, it was from a head injury. I thought it was, I don't know, other things. And I saw an image in the ambulance. I flipped out of a truck and landed on the base of my skull. And I was 19. And I was taken to this field, if you imagine, it reminded me of, if you've ever seen Gladiator, the movie, where he's walking through the fields of Elysium. And I was touching all the flowers, and I looked up on the hill and I saw images of angel beings, but they didn't have a face. And I saw my grandmother who had passed. And she said, "No, turn around and go back." And then I was immediately shoved back into my body with all the pain and anguish. And then I have a lot of interesting stories, but that was definitely an image I won't forget. And then the other time that was the full death process. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, were you in the back of a pickup truck?
Yes. Somebody hit the gas really hard while we were trying to get the tubes out to go tubing down the river. And he didn't know we were there. And it was one of those, somebody grabbed for me and I just missed their fingers, and it was all a slow motion.
My husband did something very similar. His best friend had a Subaru Brat truck. I don't know if you remember those with the 2 seats in the back.
Yes.
Okay. So he had one of those, and my husband, who was the prankster, decided, since his friend was in the truck waiting for him, that he would sneak up behind him. My husband was a big guy, 6'2", and he had some weight to him. So he jumps into the back of the truck, and his friend let the clutch go. So the truck lurched, and he flipped back, and he hit his head. He didn't go to the doctor, though. So I always wondered if did you have a closed head injury? Maybe just a little bit. But
now they have so much information on TBIs, and I definitely had a TBI. But the scientific side of that, which is very interesting, is that it hit this back part of my brain, which activated what they would call supernatural or psychic abilities.
Really?
And even though I had always had some sort of ability, I could always see spirits, and my mother called me Persephone because she said I was always ferrying the dead somewhere. Or my sister would make fun of me too, because I spent most of my life with no sleep because I was always communicating with something. And this just kind of amped it up a little bit. And then the second one, I hemorrhaged to death during a hysterectomy, and that was the most remarkable one. I went through the full death process. So it's true. I don't know. Do you want me to get into the full detail?
If you could. Okay. If you're willing to, sure.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, so I was 36 years old and I had two kids that were 8 and 10. And I had some issues with bleeding before, and they never figured out why until they found out I had no iron in my blood. So the whole process of that was that I have no memory after they took me to the hospital. I was rushed in, and luckily I was in an Army hospital, and the surgeon was he was like a retired 28-year veteran of, he knew how to do trauma, and he had field training. So if I wouldn't have had him, I would have never made it, because he was the only one who knew how to handle this, I guess. And in that, I was taken through the tunnel, as they would call these things. And I saw myself above the table, and I looked over and I saw my cousin who had passed, and he had passed at 21 years old, and we were very close. And I was just so happy to see him. And I just dove, like I just went as fast as I could. And then we were taken through, and it was like really fun. I mean, it was like I could see all the colors. I could see, it wasn't a wormhole for me. It was more like a gateway, an opening. And then I heard frequencies, like this unbelievable, like angelic tone, and it just lulls you into this place. And then I just saw images and shapes of people who I thought were family members. I didn't see anyone as a physical, like I see you.
Right.
But I knew who they were. Okay. And I was just amazingly at peace. It's very blissful. And then I was taken through the full judgment, and I had to see everything I had done in my life and how I made people feel. And that's not always the best feeling.
No, I imagine not.
You feel it tenfold. And at the time, we think we're doing everything right. And so I had a lot to account for, and there was a being there with me. And I don't know who this being was, but they basically were my guide through this journey. And I saw Jesus, and Jesus was a light being again. And the only reason I knew it was him was because I saw like holes through his hands and feet. And maybe that's the image I needed. I don't know. But there's like this whole council of ascended masters that also assisted me. And I know everyone's journey is different, but they told me that I had been an ascended master. So I thought that was very interesting, because at the time I was not involved in any of this. And hell, what you call hell, was like a void. It was a black hole. And to me, I find it interesting through science and through other forms of information that they have on black holes, that it's a mystery to them. But to me, it was the absence of light, the absence of love, and the absence of everything. It just consumes you in darkness. And I was an observer, and they basically gave me free will even in death. So I was shown that, and then I was shown God or source. I call it source now, because it was a very to me it was a bubble, like a bubble of you're in this space, and I can't define the space I was in. And I was in one space, and then I was welcomed into another space. And I knew immediately this was God, or whatever people call God. And it was everything. It was all knowledge. It was all wisdom. It was peace. It was unconditional love to the trillionth level. I mean, there's no feeling more intense than this place. And I didn't want to leave. But I was given, again, free will. And I was told that if I came back, I would have to do certain type of work. And I didn't know what that work would be. But I was given very strict instructions by who I thought was Jesus, and I still believe it was Jesus, that I was here to assist mankind, whether that was through light and through laughter or whatever it was. I had to hold a space for that. And I couldn't manipulate or control or interfere in free will. And with that, he touched my heart, and I was filled with the gift of the Holy Spirit. I guess you could say that's what it felt like to me. And I was sent back. And I saw every one of my guides and soul team that came in with me. And I was immediately better. I had been in and out for 3 days, like losing consciousness. No one ever confirmed I was dead. And I don't know if I don't know why, but I knew I was. And the doctor came in 3 days later and he said, "You should be a ghost." And I said, "I don't think you should make that decision for anyone. It was my free will." And he said, "Of all the patients I've had, you were the one I thought wouldn't make it because I couldn't stop the bleeding." Wow. And I had to get real creative to save your life. And for whatever reason, they couldn't give me a transfusion. So it took me 9 whole months to build my blood back up. But I was really grateful. And everyone there was, I looked at all the nurses differently. And it was like, are they angelic or are they people? So there was a real shift in my consciousness and my awareness. And it took me a really long time to process that, because that you feel like you're going crazy. I mean, you're just like, oh my gosh, was this real? Was it what, society has put us into these boxes of what is normal. And so I dove into as much information as I was guided to, and I kind of overloaded on it. I went into shamanism, and I went into healing and all modalities of healing. And I've worked with avatars all over the world. And I continue to learn. And through this, especially today being 2/22/22, we're in this huge portal and gateway. So it's like, I'm always downloaded with information. I keep my circle small of people. And I'm constantly 24/7 doing the work. Oh. So people who think that this is easy work, it's anything but. Being in this density, because being in a human body is very dense and it's very uncomfortable. And you feel everything, and good and bad. And it, to me, I just want to get everything right so I can go back home.
Understand. And I mean, when you're talking about the fact that you're never sleeping, I remember having a sleep study and the doctor telling me, because they did an extended sleep study, because he's like, I don't know why. He's like, why are you so tired? You're on a CPAP. I don't understand. So he does this extended sleep study, which is, for people that don't know, you end up, normally a sleep study lasts until like 5 a.m. or 6 a.m, depending on when you start. The extended one lasts till 3:30 the next afternoon. And what happens is they let you take a nap for like 15 minutes and then they wake you up and then let you take another. And this goes on all day.
Oh, sounds grueling.
And you're wired, of course, at certain points. Yeah. But it's all like you're going to sleep normally with all these wires. And you're not going to get a normal. But anyway, so he does a sleep study. He's like, you're waking up every 7 seconds. He's like, your mind is not shutting down. Your mind is actively functioning every 7 seconds. So just as soon as you go to sleep, your mind is back going. So I understand what you're saying. It's like, and for me, because I'm a writer now, it's like if I consciously wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or whatever, and if I have a thought from one of my characters, it'll go off. My mind will go off on that. And it's like, I want to just go back to sleep. So I understand about information downloads all the time. It's just like you're constantly just tired because it's like your mind is always going. It never shuts down. So
yeah, I had to get, well, I worked with, like I said, some of the best avatars, and they taught me a lot of how to allow. So everything is a conscious decision every moment, and nothing can enter without my permission. And when I am sleeping, nothing can enter anymore. Right. I have to sleep. And it's healed me immensely. And allowing myself to go into parasympathetic, which is rest and digest, and getting out of this. As humans, we have to control everything, and we have to create this space of dominating everything. Like, I have to have this much money, and I have to have this perfect partner, and I have, it's these needs as opposed to wants, and desires opposed to, there's just this whole other world beyond us. And I'm able to tap into energies that most people can't. And I can take pictures of things because I ask permission for everything. I mean, even the energy around me, if I'm on a hike or a walk, everything is sacred that you're around. And there's a lot that went on this earth in this, since the beginning of time. And we're also in these multi-dimensions and all these parts of us that are like seeds on the earth or in the universe. And the multi-dimensional selves, that's where the term deja vu comes in. And all of a sudden we're like, whoa, this seems so familiar. But what happens is everybody that we have in our life and who shows up in our life, they were part of something, either, believe it or not, past or future. So either they're priming us or they're reminding us. And we have to acknowledge the patterns of unhealthy behavior and the loops that we get ourselves into, because that's usually a past life karmic cycle. And I am far from perfect in this field. And I learned a long time ago that less is more. So I had devoured myself into information because I thought this was the way to do it. But what it did was I had I think I've had 6 near deaths. What I've learned from that is that we have to pull all those aspects of ourselves and ground ourselves in this current timeline, or we're spliced into too many parts. So I think it's huge for us to be consciously awake and aware every single moment of our life, because if we feel something that pops up and it's very uncomfortable and it feels like nothing you do can break this, that's your mirror of your karma. So we're always hitting rewind and replay with different characters, different partners, different people, different bosses, different mothers, fathers. And we have to look at this and stop and say, okay, did I do this to them in the past life? Because I need this to be done. This isn't working, and we have to, we have to heal and forgive this so that we can move forward in our evolution of who we are. And it's the only way we can tap into the higher frequencies. And the reason I use that word is because the higher the vibration, the more connected we are to source or God or whoever you call your creator. And the lower we go, that's where all the miscreated energy is. And some people use that term as ghosts or demons or entities or there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. There's vampire energy, there's dark lords, there's all kinds of stuff that people meddle in and play with and then wonder why nothing is working. But it's just misinformation. We just only know what we know, and we're only taught what we're taught. And when I died, that was a wake-up call for me, because Jesus also told me to beware of the words of men, because they will deceive in my name. And I'm also an ordained minister. I don't have a church or anything. Yeah. But I do it for healing. I do it to, it's just another avenue for me. My list of accomplishments is huge, but it doesn't matter, because it just is this is what I'm here to do.
Right.
And I'm always asking, show me a better way, more efficient way to do this work. And not everybody's ready for this work.
No.
I have on one hand, in the last 30 years, literally on one hand, people that just couldn't do it or got repelled from it because it was not them in charge. There was something else in charge. And that's free will again. I mean, I can't remove dark energy if someone has made a pact with this energy. And they'll immediately say, you can't touch this because we have a contract. And then I have to explain that to a person and say, you're the only one who can do this, not me. And I can't interfere with that, because I can't even interfere with that free will.
Which we got into a conversation when we first talked about the fact that people sometimes say, well, I will do this. If you give me this, I'll do this. And you said that's something that people should never say.
Right. Making deals of any kind and not putting a higher power in charge of it. When my son, he was very, very sick at 4 years old, and he was in the hospital. He had ITP, which is idiopathic thrombocytopenia. And they kept telling me he had leukemia. Well, he had very low platelets, but he had a blood infection from, believe it or not, a piece of mulch. And he was in Children's Hospital in Chicago for 4 months. And he had to wear a helmet. And it was just, I was just watching these little kids die on this ward from all kinds of stuff. And it was, grueling as a mother. And I remember being in the shower and just dropping to my knees. And I handed it to the Holy Mother. I said, I can't carry this. I don't know how to help him. And I say Yahweh in Yahshua, because that is the way he wants to be called, God and Jesus. And that is his name. And I called in the Melchizedeks and the White Brotherhood of Healers. And I said, if this can be healed, I hand it to you. By the next day, they released him and his platelets started coming up.
Nice.
And I have stories of this my whole entire life, like miracle upon miracle upon miracle upon miracle. And sometimes we just have to realize that when we have a contract, it doesn't matter if you're in a car. It doesn't matter if you have a terminal illness. It doesn't matter where you're at in this world. When you have reached your point to go home and you agree to that, there's nothing that can reverse that.
Right.
And I understand that people just want to prolong life, but you have to ask yourself, is it a quality life? And is it serving you?
That was always the conversation my husband and I had. And, he always had said he'd rather have, quality of life than quantity. Right. And so I got put in a very precarious position because he passed in the car. And, I knew intuitively that there was no coming back. And I knew he didn't want to be on life support. But yet, because we got to the hospital and it took them, he was without oxygen and they didn't have him back for 45 minutes. So the chances of him actually being a functioning human being after this is next to none. And I know this, but in that situation where you were so worked up, my first question to them was, when they got him back, because they first brought me into the family room, When they brought him back,
Mm.
they bring me back to the ER. There's this machine, which is mortifying, that is doing the chest compressions. And he had cardiac bypass surgery roughly 10 years before that never healed. So I know this is just not good either. So I asked him, I'm like, so what's his brain going to be like? Well, we have to do tests. We won't know until, so you can intubate him, or we could just, so you're put in that position after just going through this trauma of,
Right.
do I let him go, or do I buy some time and see what happens? So I bought some time, and they woke him up the next day. They had put him in a drug-induced state, and they woke him up the next day, and he tried to talk, and he was intubated. So he's garbling. His eyes were not focused. And then I know technically that's when he really just was around, but he wasn't around after that. He wasn't in his body after that, because he would yawn and stuff, but his brain injury, he had an ioxin brain injury, and they're not sure. He also had a heart attack. So there was multiple things. And after I wrapped my head around it, then I was like, okay, I'll let you go. But I knew he was never coming home with me. I knew that night, but it was just one of those things where it's like, after going through that one trauma of watching the person you love die like that, and here's that small grain of hope, what are you going to do? Because what if there's that small chance?
Yeah.
So
I understand. And that's where we have to trust that they will know the right decision. And I mean, nobody wants to go through that. Nobody wants to lose a loved one. But I find it interesting when people have done every single thing they can do to heal themselves, and then they still die. And it's all within this window. Now, I will say with that is that some people, I mean, obviously I have to get this right, or I'm going to keep coming back. But some people, I've reached this level with people that I kind of was on a mission at first to save everybody. And then I had to take a step back and say, they might not get it in this life, and that's okay. Watching my dad die and stuff, he got it. Like the last 3 days of his life, the aha hit him, but he went his entire life. And being his daughter, I was just like, how do you get to the third day? Did. But I had to that's my human mind interfering. And I had to get out of my own emotion with it and say, thank God he got it. Yeah. I mean, even if it's on their last day and they get it, they don't have to rewind and play reset, do this whole recycle again, lifetime after lifetime. And no one teaches us this. No one shows us how, gives us a blueprint of how to do this. And I mean, I was very fortunate, and I know there's still a lot I need to learn, but I will say I had another interesting experience not too long ago, where I had a surgery, and I remember being on a field with my grandmother. We were riding horses. That was her favorite thing, was horses. And it was really brief, but we were in this iron gate. We went through the gate. I didn't go through the tunnel or anything. There was this big ranch, and it had, the iron gate that I walked through, and she showed up with a horse, and I got on this horse, and we just rode so hard and so fast through these fields, and she was perfect. I was very close to her. And then she loops around, and I was just like, oh, I'm free. I'm so happy. I'm free. And then we came back around with the horses to the beginning of the gate. And she says, okay, she had a little act, she was Scottish, but she had a Canadian accent. She was born in Canada. And she said, okay, you got to get off now. And I looked at her and I was like, what? No, I can't do this anymore. Wow. And she says, oh, come on, it'll be fun. So when I'm having a day, I'll just usually be in the car and be like, you said this was going to be fun. I need this to be fun. I have this argument, and I woke up, and my mom was there in recovery, and I was hysterical crying. And I said, she sent me back. She made me come back. I didn't want to come back. And the reason I chose to come back the other time was because of my sons. You know, they were only 8 and 10, and I really was shown like what their life would be like if I wasn't in their life. And so I I did the noble thing as a mother, chose to come back for them. But it has been anything but easy. And I just basically show up every single day and do what I'm here to do. And with grace and ease, hopefully, as best as I can.
That's all any of us can do. All any of us can do. On that note, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, guys. And we're back. So I wanted to go back to when you were talking about your first experience. You said that there were people there that you didn't see their faces, but you did recognize them. So I would say, you know, we've taught, not you, Bi, and I personally, but as a culture, we talk about soul recognition. So this would definitely be that, would it not?
Yes. And everything's a frequency. So I've learned that, but absolutely, that's 100%. I think even if we saw an animal or something, there's a pull, a draw to that.
I've had energy experiences with some people, and it's like I remember putting my hand on somebody's back once, and I had talked to them before and everything, but I put my hand on their back, and it was just like this weird energy entered me, and it was just like, what the heck? And it was just, it felt, I mean, because it really, I hate to say it, the energy shifted in me from that, and it was very weird, and I've never had that experience again. But it was, I'm like, obviously it was a soul recognition, obviously.
Yeah. And we actually can activate those on a daily basis once we choose to. But with all of this being said, I just want everyone to know that protecting your field is probably the most important thing anybody can do every single day. Because when we get up like Groundhog Day every day and we just fumble through each day, I call them the fleas on the dog, and we can accumulate all kinds of stuff in our field. Some people call it space debris, but I like the fleas on the dog because you can't always see them, but they're there and they're causing irritation. They're biting us. They're causing us to itch and be uncomfortable. And when I clear that, or actually I don't clear it, I take you to the blue space and to the healing chamber of stars, because in all the processes that we do, you have to be in a secure, safe place. And it's a much higher frequency. So I work really fast in that area. But then when you come back down into your density and we come back into the space, then it's like all these things start moving out and you feel a shift or some sort of, you feel different. And so your unconscious mind tries to fight that and put you back into the pattern that, you know, that pathway of what you're used to. And that's where I say people have to do the work after that, because if you're not willing to say, okay, I see you, you can go now, or I feel this and it's okay, I'm safe now. Or if you're triggered from a trauma or a cellular memory, people don't realize that they've done tests and studies on cows and animals and people, and they will, like, I'm sure you've read this study where the cow will go to, if the baby will go to an electric fence and turn away because the cellular memory is in there from the mother. It's never touched that fence, but it knows this causes pain, and nobody can explain why or how they know.
Right. And
to me, that's fascinating, because when you're working with the person and they just seem to have it all, but they're a mess, and you're not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just saying, like, you're just like, wow, you seem so put together. So I have to become the detective and take them up in there. And then we scan the source, and everybody that I call in helps me understand what's going on. So sometimes it's a past life trauma, sometimes it's a cellular memory from family. And they go in there and we can shift it and move it so that there's not a problem after that. But unless they reactivate it, which is very common. So most people, though, that I work with are pretty much good after one session. So, and again, I'm not doing the work. I'm just the conduit to get you to show you the door of your highest and best good, and to get you into a space that is safe and nurturing and supportive. And I think most human people, animals are able to go in that space easily, but humans, we get in our way so much, and that reptilian brain kicks in, and then the insecurities and all the self-talk and doubt come in. So to me, it's fascinating and I love doing it. But I am truly doing this in an act of service. This isn't for me I'm not here to get rich on any of this. I'm just here to be a guide, a tour guide for the heavenly space.
And there, there's nothing wrong with that, because I think you're very correct in the fact that people do get into places where they self-sabotage. Mm-hmm. And it's up to you to recognize what you're doing. I mean, right now I'm going through a journey of myself that I've realized I'm repeating my life over and over and over again in this lifetime. It's like there's certain cycles that keep coming up. Mm-hmm. And good, bad, and different. And I've tracked it down to where the point of it starting. But then in the same breath, I'm also having people say the exact same things that were said to me, we'll say back in 1993. We'll use that as a great example. 1993 and 1995. Things that people said to me verbatim are coming out of another person's mouth about my life. And it's like, and back then I made drastic changes, and it's like, here I sit again. Mm-hmm. So I know that I most likely will be making drastic changes again and stepping into a different part.
I think it's important to know that you just, as long as you're aware of it, you can say, thank you for the lesson. And I hear you. And if you need a visual, you just take a piece of paper and throw it in some fire and say, this is my contract with you, or with this energy. It doesn't have to be with a person. It can just be this, whatever this thing keeps coming in. And you just, we did our best, and thank you so much for the lesson, but I have to move forward. And I think, so I had a vision. I used to have visions of Yogananda. I didn't even know who he was. And one of the best visions I had of him is we were in this heavenly space, and he was in front of me, and we were going up these stairs, and it was like a digital, like everything just started disappearing mm-hmm. with every step. And he said, there's no looking back. Just keep going, going up with me. And I'm not devoted to any kind of a guru. I won't even become someone's guru, because that is a title that I don't feel is serving, because then people rely on someone else to fix their life. Right. And it's you have to be held accountable. When I was in the judgment process, I realized that I had given away my power to so many people, because I was told, as a woman, you take care of everybody, you do this. And there's this role that I was put into and not knowing. And then it was like, after 36 years, I hadn't even done one thing for myself.
Right.
And that was huge. And I had to do an inventory of my life. And I lost a lot of people at that time. And I just had to be discerning, very, very clear in what my intention was here. And it wasn't for everybody, but I can't hang on to what other people think. And it's an island.
Right. And what I was going to say is, the people that are giving me these little messages, the ones that are like, well, because one of them was like, you're bigger than a small town. And that was the same message I got back in
that's not nice.
1993. No. It's not a bad message. Because
that's what you needed to hear.
Yeah, because I'll give a prime example. In 1993, I was living in a small town with my first husband and 2 kids. And I had come back from vacation and I said my life was stagnating. I felt like my life was stagnating because this was not where I needed to be. I didn't feel comfortable there. And so I was a disc jockey and everything. And ultimately, things shifted. I met somebody, things shifted. I ended up moving. My marriage ended. And I moved to Chicago. So my whole life shifted. And so now here I am. My husband's gone. I'm in the process of declaring my house and trying to save my house. And I have somebody else telling me, well, you don't belong in a small town. You're bigger than that. So it's not that it's a negative message. It's a message to light a fire under me to realize my potential. It's not the other part that I was talking about is like, I can go back to the uncontrollable situation of my parents splitting and how that led to some of my behaviors and how that has repeated in different aspects of my life. So it's like the two are totally different, but it's like this situation with the parents, I didn't realize how much anxiety was there until I was forced to start looking at this decision, this life now, this part of my life now. So that's where it's like, there's the anxiety. And it's like, when you can actually, as my therapist and I were talking, it's like when you can actually name it, then you can claim it. And then you can tame it and be dismissive of it, that this isn't going to happen anymore. But you have to be willing, as you said, to do the work, however you feel the need to. So,
yeah. And that's a really good message, claiming it. Not that you have to own it, but just be aware of it and say, thank you. I mean, even when we're pissed, thank you. It's like, it's hard to do. We're not taught that.
No, we're not.
So we're coming in leaps and bounds, and the children coming in are super high frequency, and, they're going to be the way showers. I mean, we're going to have to get above ourselves and realize that we have to listen to everything that's coming in, or be aware of it somehow. And even if you're someone who has to have the TV on all day and listen to background noise, let it be good background noise. Don't let it be the news or something else. But I just saw, so I get a lot of visions or dreams or whatever you want to call it. But right now we're so distorted and warped in this frequency that isn't healthy for people, through gaming and through virtual reality and all these this interference that's there. And there is an undertone in all background TVs. There's a hypnotic frequency in a lot of things, and I don't know if I should even say that, but when you have the TV on for a certain amount of time, you can kind of watch a pattern where people get agitated and they'll get upset, or especially if it's the news. The news isn't sharing a lot of positive stories.
The news isn't what it used to be. The news is now infotainment, and it's all about ratings. So they don't care what they're putting out. If they can gin you up.
I'm not putting any discrimination on that, but it just, if it's not making you feel good, whether it's TV, movies, gaming, or people, then adjust it and do what feels good. Like I said, I don't want to pinpoint anything specific. I think it's important to check in with ourselves and see how we feel.
My husband was a prime example, because here he is massively depressed. He knows he's in his end of days. He's still functioning, walking around like a normal person, but he's been told he's on borrowed time. And then COVID happens. And so the nightly news is nothing but, and I'm not going to talk about the virus. I'm just talking about the media coverage, because he's watching the news and he's sitting there bawling his eyes out. And it's like, babe, let's just turn this off. No, I want to watch the news. I'm like, I'm going upstairs. Yeah. Because I already had enough negativity. And quite honestly, after he passed, I check the news sources occasionally to see what's going on, but I don't sit down and watch the news. The last time I watched the news was when the insurrection happened. Other than that,
Right.
I have not sat down to watch it because I don't need and some people can disagree with me, but I don't need that fear mongering energy to get me worked up.
Right. And it's scary. It's kind of like when, I don't know if you remember 9/11, but it was
Oh yeah.
nonstop. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my kids were watching it and they were young, and I was just like, oh my God, like they just kept playing it over and over again. And you're just like,
And
it was shock and awe.
and
It was shock and awe for
you
me
could not
personally.
get away from it because
No.
even everything from VH1 to MTV to Comedy Central had it on. And it's like, I remember just finally turning it off and putting on a movie because it's like, I
Yeah.
can't, at a certain point, you were so oversaturated that it just, you couldn't
Yeah.
breathe. You were suffocating.
And I remember it triggered a lot of PTSD in people. So, like, my dad was from Vietnam, and watching it and playing it, I just noticed his behavior shift like completely. And I was like, we're shutting this off. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
And he just said, I don't know what's wrong with me. But I was like, I do. It's a trigger
Yeah.
from that experience that you had. But I mean, I get it. It made history, and it's something that we have to
The first
have awareness of, for sure.
when it happened, the first thing I did was I called my dad because my dad was a retired fireman.
Oh,
And,
wow.
he was always one of those people, he saved somebody. He would run into a burning building.
Sure.
And it's not until I guess my mid 40s that I really realized, 9/11 cemented, and I was in my late 30s. That cemented for me that
Mm-hmm.
my dad risked his life. I never
Right.
thought about it before. As a kid, I never thought that my dad would go into a building and not come back out.
Right.
So it was triggering for me to realize what he had done with his life.
Right.
But
Right.
it was also, I knew that he would have issue because, he was still, he just, until about 3 years ago, he still was part of the Fireman Society down in New Orleans.
Wow.
So, he's been the fireman and he's in his 70s now. So that's always been something he's been passionate about.
And we can appreciate what people continue to do
Mm-hmm.
even with all the fires and stuff. I have so much respect for our military and for our policemen and for our firefighters and our EMTs. And, they go out every single day. And now even, UPS drivers and delivery drivers. I mean, we have a whole new appreciation for everything because, and now truckers.
Here's the thing I want to say real quick about the drive, the policeman and the fireman. And I'm guilty of this. My dad has had a drinking problem occasionally. And the fact is, we don't look at what they go through. We don't look at what
Sure.
they see. And it's not like what you're going to see on a movie or TV. It's much worse. And we don't really see that. One of the scariest things that my dad said was, the worst smell you will ever smell is burning flesh.
Yeah. And
to know that, it's like, you don't think about those things until you're older and you can reframe things, because as a younger person, you don't grasp that. You don't want to grasp it, which takes me back to something that we don't want to grasp. When you're talking about hell, basically what you described as solitary confinement, except on steroids.
It was, yeah. The absence of everything is, it was not what I imagined. And that's how I knew I wasn't creating this, because I could have never even visioned that. We were told you're going to burn,
Mm-hmm,
right? Mm-hmm. And I was the kid in Sunday school who got kicked out because I said, they were talking about the evolution story or whatever in Adam and Eve. And I said, something came up. I think I was 6. I don't even remember, 7. But I remember I couldn't go back because I said, we're hybrids of ETs. No one taught me that.
No, you just knew.
And I just was like, I don't believe this story. And I tell people, check in with everything, because, there is an inner master in all of us. And there is an inner guru and there is an inner master teacher. We are connected to the divine blueprint of creation. And your body knows when something is off. And I am not one to talk at parties. I don't, people are just like, oh, will you read for me? And I'm like, no, I won't, because I won't read for other people. Like if they'll say, I need you to check my husband. Is he cheating on me? Or do check my kids? And I just say, well, I don't have permission to go there. So if they want to call me, I'll be more than happy to help them. But, and I have no judgment on how anyone does their work, because there's a lot of really good people out there helping a lot of people. I just know what my parameters, because just like we have a legal system here, there's universal law, and everyone has to follow the same, yes, the rules are different in universal law, but that could throw me way back.
Yeah.
If I didn't follow the guidelines and the rules that I was given. And most people see a huge difference after we work together. So, and again, I'm just the conduit.
Well, you're not only a conduit, though. You're a gifted healer, clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairaudient, medium, non-denominational minister, and a true business professional. This was a review that somebody had given you. And
wow.
You are a business coach, you're a life coach, and, so don't sell yourself short. You also have you have a meditation guidance master. I mean, I can sit here and read out the whole thing, but, so don't. And I'm not stroking your ego, because I know we don't want to do the ego thing. This is just about owning yourself. I mean, you have a lot of abilities. Some people aren't clear. They're not, for me, I'm an empath, I'm a medium and intuitive. And I get my information in different ways at different times.
Sure.
But for some people, it's like, well, I'm not intuitive. We're all intuitive. It's just a matter, are you listening?
Right. Exactly. And is your connection to what you're listening to from a clearer channel?
Sure.
So I notice a lot of people who do a lot of work and they're getting lots of information, but who's in charge of that information? And that's where the discerning comes in, because I used to do stuff too. And it was before, I've made plenty of mistakes doing this work. And, I was working with some higher dimensional being that was not the best, when I first started. And it was just like, whoa, I had to come out of my body and look at it and then come back in. But I can shift in and out of these spaces in over 30 years of doing this work. It's not hard for me to do anything. What's hard for me is to watch people continue to suffer, because they don't realize that they have a choice in everything. And I just encourage people all the time to know their worth. We're magical beings on every level, and we have to get excited about that and start tapping into our true source of where this came from, so that we can evolve and move into these higher frequencies. And I was recently given a vision or a message that we are going to hit 5D, and from 5D, we're going to go to 9. So if you think it's been hard now, yeah. It's like getting, going through space with no suit on. It's going to be intense. Not everybody's going to be able to be here. Not everybody's going to handle it. Sorry.
No, that's okay. An astrologer said that with the Leo full moon, that she is having clients, she's like, we're walking into the unknown. This is how she put it. We're walking into the unknown. And there's some of her clients, when she's telling them this, they're like, I'm not doing it. They're like, she goes, well, you don't have to do it. But I guarantee you, when you decide to do it, it's going to be much harder. So you either do the work now, or it's going to get harder. Now, explain a little bit to, what do you mean by 5D? I know it's a frequency, but explain a little bit.
So everything outside of the Earth, the other planets, they all vibrate at a higher frequency of 5D. And I'm not using that in a Wi-Fi, cellular, or data I'm talking a frequency that allows us to see beyond the veil. So a lot of people who've done psychedelics, they can remove the veil briefly because it takes them into a higher frequency. Now, I don't encourage anybody to go out and get some psychedelics, but that's basically what it does, is it removes the veil. So we can see more clearly through our third eye and open up more aspects of our brain. So what's going to happen is the higher the frequency, the more ability we're going to have with our brain. And that's where these new kids are coming in, because most of them are telepathic, and most of them have a lot of abilities. And I like to, I know a lot of people are all against the autistic and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's all because of this, this, and this, and this. Well, this person chose to come in and use other parts of their brain because they can function on a whole different level than we can. So who is right? Are we the ones that are normal, or are they? Because I've worked with autistic kids, and I'm not putting them in a category, but I'm saying, like, I can communicate with animals in a sense, not like an animal communicator, but everything has a silent language. Like, if you watch a baby enough, you're going to know, okay, this baby needs help. This baby's in pain. This baby's hungry. Animals do the same thing. They give you these things, their tail gets fluffy, the hackles come up. They don't need words. And I think if we could get to that point where we can address somebody in a frequency level and connect with their heart energy instead of a more primal energy, then I think everything is going to evolve. But what happens is the higher you go, the less emotion you feel. So as we reach these higher frequencies, all this old stuff that we have over here, that's just like, oh my God, this person screwed me over and now I'm pissed. And, we go through all these layers of energy and frustration, and I'm super happy. And now I'm super sad. And all that's going to start peeling away. And that's where, when you get into like 90, that's a light body. So when people talk about the rainbow body and stuff like that, it doesn't mean you're dead. You just vibrate at a totally different frequency that we can actually see. So the 3D comes in a low density. That's why everything is so concrete. You get to the higher frequencies, you're not going to see walls in a room. You're not going to see a ceiling because there is no ceiling. Everything's at this high vibration, and it's just like an isness. You become everything around you, and you can manifest everything around you. And obviously food won't be important. And I think it's important that people realize they're going to start changing. Like, the material things aren't going to be so important anymore. Food isn't going to be that important anymore. So animal flesh and things like that, people are going to start getting, like, they might have loved meat, and now all of a sudden they're just like, I can't digest it properly. Like, I feel worse when I eat it. And so the high vibration comes from high vibration foods. So you're not going to crave the sugars. You're not going to crave the chips. You're not going to crave the over processed foods and things like that. So, I mean, we have a ways to go with that, obviously. But when I heard that, I was just like, oh, sweet.
Aren't we kind of setting this up with virtual reality? I mean, what you're describing is in a way virtual reality, isn't it?
It is, but they're also desensitizing us.
Yeah.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect place to learn if the learning is about love. Right. Or kindness. Not
most of the time it's not
rape and killing and war.
Right. Why do you think it's much easier for us to embrace the darker sides of things than the positive?
Because everyone who is alive should go through the dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is our shadow self. And you have to make friends with that. and understand where your darkness is. And that's the balance. So, I know a lot of people are like, we just want peace. Well, there's no balance in just peace.
Right.
The universe it's the ultimate scales game. If we go too far, which is what's happening today, the universe is sliding us back into center. Well, it's been happening, but it's like, oh no, we've tipped too far back this way. So now they're like, nope, we have to be in the center. So there's good and bad. There's light and dark. You can't see the stars without the light of the, planets. Right. And they're just, I think people need to realize that everything is cyclical and it's a balance.
Well, and right now we're marching into that Pluto return for the U.S. So
right,
things are going to be shifting in a major way.
Right. And the earth can only handle so much. And, history is our best teacher. If you go back and look at the Atlanteans, the Mu, the Lemurians, all these really super high civilizations that used their third eye and used technology, there's always somebody who has to abuse it. Mm-hmm. And that's where ego comes in, or the lower vibrations. So the lower vibrations take over the mind. And it's kind of like the Lord of the Rings that, so the ring can give you all power, but are you strong enough to resist that and use it for good? And there's always the hero's journey in every story. And why is that? Because we have to face that darkness within us and say, okay, yeah, this part of me is a little off, and we're going to go down this road. I want to go to the bottom of this barrel and clean it out. And that's been the joke, is I've been cleaning out everybody's basements for them lately, but then I also want them to look at what we pulled out. It's like, we can pressure wash this thing, and but you have to identify, where you're at in this level.
It's let me empty my purse out. I've emptied out my purse, and oh wait, now it's full of receipts again. It's up to you. You can choose to quit putting all your receipts in your purse and take care of it, or you can choose to keep piling them back in. Right.
Or your car, or you get stuff. But anyway, I guess people don't bring in the everyday into the everyday. No. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Or when you get in that mode where you just got to move the energy in your house, and you pull everything out, you vacuum everything, you move everything. And I've moved 36 times, more than that, 39 times. And because we were a military family, and my mother liked to move a lot. But it's amazing to me that even if I was in a place for 2 years, that there would always be at least 30 bags of trash.
Wow.
In your house that you just weren't aware of. And it's just like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
And my ex-husband's famous saying was, if we haven't used it in 2 years, we don't need it. And it's kind of true.
Yeah.
If it's been in your basement for 15 years in a hole, in this wall, unless it's pictures or movies or something, the sentimental, I think we all have to get to this point where our surroundings is our frequency, and we need to keep it high.
My husband's family, when we cleaned out their house, there was 63 years, 5 kids worth of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And everybody in that age bracket didn't want to get rid of anything, because I'm guilty. I think I still have boxes of my kids' colorings and, their Mother's Day little handprints. And
I finally, because I'm doing that decluttering bit, and I had asked my stepdaughter about 3 years ago, I'm like, one of them anyway, I said, do you want this? You want your little kid things? No, I don't. Okay, well, no, I'll put it aside just in case.
Yeah.
And I ran across it again, and I'm like, she said she didn't want it. It's time to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. Because it's like, if she doesn't want it, why am I holding on to it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Some,
And it's the same thing with friends. I mean, I know that probably sounds silly, but like you kind of need to check in with the people you surround yourself with.
mm-hmm.
And if the people aren't supporting you, and I mean, not everybody has to have your back. I know so many people, and they're wonderful people, and I consider them my friends. But I let very few people into my circle, like the circle of trust. And there's very few, because I am so different than most people. It's very hard for me to have intimate relationships and close relationships with people, because even though it's like, as soon as you meet, it's like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I would think this would be so awesome, until it's not.
Yeah.
Until they're seeing, like, they can't lie to me. I can see right through their stuff. And it creates a personal problem for them and not for me. But it's not that I run from relationships or anything. I just don't, I don't know. I've had relationships, and I've had wonderful people in my life, and I've lost some to death and to other things.
But when and here's the thing, when you have friends, sometimes when you're an intuitive,
mm-hmm.
you have friends that are really good friends. And then you have friends that learn that you're a reader. And suddenly your friendship is no longer about being friends. It's about, hey, can you do this for me?
Can you just check one thing?
Yeah.
It just take 5 minutes. Well, I mean, are you going to, I mean, I am 100% with integrity. And I actually just had a lady recently who said, it was like an emergency thing. I had to work with her and work a whole hour with her. And then I could tell she wasn't ready to shift or move, period.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I just think it was a lot of money I don't feel any different. And I said, then I'm not cashing your check. But, I know what I did, and I know what worked and what didn't work. But I'm not going to go there and be like, well, I just wasted an hour. No, I held space for an hour. And it's very rare that somebody won't pay me. But again, not everybody. I mean, I consider myself advanced, and the people that send me referrals know that. And because I'm not your average
right
card reader or, storefront psychic or something.
Right.
And I just work at a whole other level. I love to see the stories of transformation too, in the same breath. It's amazing to me.
Well, and I mean, I have friends that are readers, and we do swap, but
mm-hmm.
I've had friends in the past that were just friends that are like, hey, and it's just like, no.
and that's as I get older, I think it's easier. I create better boundaries,
mm-hmm.
and I don't have to be mean about it. But I know the vampires,
mm-hmm.
and I know the people who are feeding off of my energy, and I just keep a distance.
Yeah. And
I know there's those people who I couldn't talk to for 5 years, but they would have my back in a second.
Right.
And there's a really good book. It's a Western. It's about, I can't remember the name of it, but it's about basically you have 5 people in your life that you would take this river boat ride down, and it's basically life. Like, who could you yell at and still love, and who could drive you crazy and still love, and who, regardless of your differences, can you just look at them and be like, dude, you're pissing me off, but I'm always here for you. Like, mm-hmm. but you're being a jerk right now. Or, right. We need that. We need those people in our life that reflect back to us and not just tell us what we want to hear.
Right.
Because I know so many people in these tragic relationships, but on the outside, everybody thinks they have this perfect life. And you're just like, that's a train wreck. I mean, it's like, I can't tell someone that.
It was always funny because my first marriage, I had so many people that knew us that were just like, wow, you guys are going to be in for the long haul. I see you having 5 or 6 kids. And my in-laws would tell me this, and I would just look at them like, you're insane. But because I ended up not having any biological children, but it was just like, that marriage was doomed. It was always doomed, I think, because there were so many things and I wasn't who I needed to be. But my second marriage, it was like nobody sat there and said, oh, wow. Now people would tell us how perfect we were, but we didn't have all the hoopla that, oh, your guys are going to be perfect. You know, your guys are going to be together forever. There was not that hoopla. So it's like, I think people they want that hope. They want that hope of you're going to last the long haul. And one of my friends whose marriage was toxic, you know, who they would say is just toxic as anything, they lasted longer than we did. And it was just kind of like, opinions don't matter.
Yeah. I was married 20 years and he was my best teacher, but it was anything but easy. So he was my soulmate. He was my mirror. And I had 2 beautiful children with him, and I could never hate him or hate anything about him. But I realized, like, whoa, this is a pattern from 4 or 5 past lives. So I got the message. I'm not sure if he did, but I got the message and I felt bad. But I realized after I died that and went through that judgment, it was like, I have to start taking care of myself. And I can't point the finger and blame somebody for not being the person I want them to be. I mean, it starts with number one, you know, and I was 100% guilty of a lot of bad relationships. And I was also the one that allowed a lot of stuff that shouldn't have. I didn't set a boundary. I didn't protect myself.
And I think what happens a lot of times too is we have our expectations and we think that this is the way it should play out. The problem is our expectations aren't always the same as somebody else's expectations. So therefore,
and there's a disposable there's just too much out there, even with dating. You can swipe away and be like, yeah, I don't want to get to know you, but I want to sleep with you. And that's fine for a lot of people. But every person that you engage with in a sexual act creates an anchor and an aqua cord. And the aqua cord gets dropped in to your belly button, your heart, and your throat. And sometimes the mind. So our children are connected to all those parts. And people use the term, let's cut the cords. No, you need to pull the cords and get the roots out. Yeah. Because every energy exchange becomes a family exchange. And we learned this from wolves. If you look inside the mouth of a wolf, you become part of their family or part of the pack. And I'm not saying that, you know, people shouldn't do that. But I think if people were aware of what they were actually doing, they might be more conscious of who they're exchanging this really intimate energy with.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not here to judge anybody, but when I meet people and they have like, they're full of cords and they're just like on all kinds of medication and they're just like, oh my, I don't know why I feel like this and this and this. And then we do that clearing and all of a sudden they're grounded and they're just like, what was this from? And I'm just like, every single person that you slept with left that signature in there and it drops in just like an anchor. And so you're feeling their emotions, your emotions, and your mother's emotions and your children's emotions. And, you know, it's a powerful, powerful tool to understand.
Yeah, sounds like it. So we've been talking for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and ask you, is there anything that we haven't covered that you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I think it's a lot of information. I think if people are interested in it, they'll decipher what they can. And if you ever wanted to do another series, we could do that, or another session.
Okay.
In the sense of this, you know, if people had questions or if you get a lot of feedback, I'm happy to help.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming on, Kalea.
Thank you so much, Donna.
So some of you guys, I'm sure, are going, wow. But I mean, the fact that she said, you know, she saw herself laying on the table. One of my other friends, Sarah Martucci, who has been a guest of the show a couple of times. And I think next time she comes back, we'll talk a little bit about her experience. I think a lot of people, when they pass over, they have that experience of looking down at themselves. There's so many times that we wonder what it's like. And her description of hell, like I said in the podcast, it reminds me of what you hear about solitary confinement. And when you think of that, put yourself in a situation where you have nothing, just blackness, and how frightening that would be. I mean, maybe it changes to who you are, but I mean, imagine that experience of just total nothingness, just darkness, how unnerving that would be. I think that as we look at energy and how we look at things, the attachments that she was talking about, we do pick up attachments from people, whether we admit it or not. And yes, if you look at the generational traumas that we have had in our life and that we've talked about in our life, it does affect our DNA. It does affect our family lineage. As I've talked about before on the podcast, for me, when I was in high school, even though I really was bored at the very end of it, I still said I wanted to be the first person, at least between my grandmother and my mother, to graduate high school. And I did, because I wanted to break that generational curse, just like I wanted to break the generational curse of getting married young. At least I waited till I was 24 to get married. Granted, I was in a committed relationship, but I was not going to get married early. So I think sometimes consciously we have to break those curses. I mean, even the fact that I chose not to have children, it was all about breaking cycles. And I think that's where we have to really look at things. We have to break those cycles and change not necessarily our DNA, but change our construct. And I'm not saying, oh, well, don't have kids. It's just we pass that stuff on. When I look at me being a parent at the age of 22, I see myself looking at me going, I could have been a much better parent now, knowing what I know and healing from my own trauma as compared to the woman that I was when I was a parent, because I was just a kid myself. And honestly, the age difference of those kids, when I look at how old I was, it's rather funny, because one of those things when you look at this, you go, okay, so technically I would have been 16 to have one, 18 to have the other. So basically I was a kid having a kid, even though they were already there. They were 4 and 6 when they came into my life, but still I was awfully young to have 2 kids and being in an instantaneous situation. I don't regret it, but I think we need to look at, if you heal your trauma, you can be a better person, have better relationships. And that means however you want to do it. I mean, yes, Kalea and I have worked together, and it was an amazing experience. And she helped clear up some stuff for me. And I think that's when, as I was telling her offline, was when I'm actually now able to see some trauma that maybe I wasn't able to see before. So if you're interested in learning more about what she does, she also has a book about her experience, and that's going to be in the show notes. It's called Journey Between Two Worlds, Beyond Life and Death. And that's something that a lot of people want to know about. So she does have a book out regarding that. And we did not talk about that, but she does. So she does life coaching and also coaching in business. So she has many different facets to reach out to her if you're interested. Her stuff will be in the show notes. And, well, as always, the show is sponsored by Kitty Mystic, where you can get an intuitive reading, or dmneedham.com. And actually, Kitty Mystic for now is on dmneedham.com. So you can look there if you want a reading from me. We also have an intuitive podcast called the Better 2 Weekly Intuitive Podcast. And you can delve in to see what the weekly energy is going to be like, both astro as well as what's in the cards. And the sound, as always, is done by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio. So if you have a question, comment, concern, and you want to reach out to me, you can do so by dropping me an email at Donna, DAUNA, at better2podcast.com. That's Donna at better2podcast.com. All of the episodes are on better2podcast.com if you want to catch up, as well as our social links. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show. I'm sure some of you guys are going, what the heck? And others are embracing it. And that's okay, because as you know, whenever you turn on the show, it's always a wild ride. So I hope you have a great day, evening, weekend, whenever you're choosing to listen to the podcast. And I'll catch you next time, guys. Bye. The Better 2 podcast is mixed, edited, and produced by Rich Zai of Third Ear Audio Productions.